Okay. Very good morning to you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. We are going to have a panel discussion on the subject, how should corporate learning and development change for the future? Now, as Chandra has introduced, we have a very eminent panel of speakers with us. We have Dr. Jain, former KMA president. He's a founder, I don't know whether Chandra has said, he started Indian Society for Training and Development in Cochin. For that, he definitely need a round of applause from you all. So we'll rather call he's a culprit. All right. We have Mr. Dinesh Thambi, introduced properly, but then he's also an award the country award winner for having proliferated IT technology in the nation that he had been to, Mr. Dinesh Thambi. Anil, of course, I would rather call him now as a business accelerator, because the organizations that he runs essentially accelerates the business in this part of the world. And of course, we have Vinod, who is the head of HR at Cognizant. If I take the top 3-4 companies of IT in the country, definitely we have two of them right in front of us representing those organizations. Now, generally, just to have a sort of a preface, I would tell that with the advent of these knowledge companies into the scenario, the learning and development situation has improved considerably. But until then, the government organization, the public sector undertakings, the quasi-governmental institutions, and even institutions and companies, organizations, the private sector, corporate learning was a sort of a tamasha. Okay, it wasn't a very serious affair. A person who is appointed as a training manager, and that position normally in those organizations in those days were considered to be a punishment posting. A person who is a training manager in a company in those days is considered to be a punishment posting actually. And he would have his own, crony trainers who are regulars who will come and teach finance for no finance executives, how to speak, how etiquettes, this and that and all. They'll have standard trainers as part of their group. And I was so amazed, when in 1997, when my little organization having about 50 people had spent close to about 5.5 lakhs rupees for training. At that time, one of the largest employer in Cochin, called Cochin Port Trust, training expenditure was less than 3 lakhs rupees. So you would understand what is this corporate learning and development at that point of time was. But then with the advent of knowledge companies, and I was yesterday amazed by some of the presentations made by your organization TCS, as well as Popular Vehicles and Services, and we had Aster MedCity, etc., telling about the learning and development initiative that they have actually built in their organization. Amazed by the standards that is maintained by them, as well as the repository of the knowledge that they have created, that the content that they have created. So things have changed a lot. And we would like to see as to how the organizations of the future would look at learning and development. It is now said that content is the king, that is, knowledge is the king, and knowledge is what actually is going to drive us. What is differentiating you and the other guy is the knowledge that you possess. You will know, a normal physician you will want to see, you will give a 100 rupee fee, consulting fee, but when you want to meet a cardiologist, you are willing to pay a 500 rupee consulting fee. Why? Because he is supposedly a cardiologist having a specialized knowledge, so knowledge is power, so that you are willing to pay more money or more remuneration to people who have knowledge. Okay. Now, we would definitely start, not in the order, but definitely I would like to start with Dr. Jain. Firstly, because he is the senior most among all of us sitting in here. Okay, so irrespective for that, sir. And then your initiatives in KMA, your initiatives in ISTD. In fact, lots of us, when we were part of KMA, never ever thought that, okay, something like this we'll start, but then you had that vision to start this Indian Society of Training and Development. And later, he is also a founder, and he runs another organization called Lifelong Learning, which itself is great. Lifelong Learning. So Dr. Jain, and mind you, he is one who had actually institutionalized learning and development in erstwhile organization called Cochin Refineries Limited, which is part of the BPCL group now in the name as Kochi Refineries. And Dr. Jain was the head. He instituted the department, he ran the department, he headed the department, and then superannuated from the department, and he is now actualizing by doing training, by traveling around the world, and also by learning newer training paradigms such as team-centered interactions and non-violent communications and whatnot, and his ways of learning and disseminations are different. Dr. Jain, I would like to take you back to those brick and mortar era where learning and development has been propagated. Okay. How do you see the changes happening from that to now? Please.
Thank you, Asar, for the beautiful question. When I joined the training profession, I used to see a trainer who comes and stands like this and making a PowerPoint presentation or chalk and talk, and the participants are listeners. Maybe they are listeners, like sitting in rows like this, like a conventional, traditional teacher. And the trainer comes with a lot of knowledge or information in his head, and as a conveyor belt, transfers that knowledge or experience to the students or participants. So you can see the classroom. When I was studying, a teacher stands up and talks and makes lectures, and the hapless students sitting and writing. That's how
volumes of notes as this is going on.
So it's called conveyor belt way of learning. I study something and dispense that knowledge to others. This was when I was a student. Later, I found that training and teaching is different from learning. I was so happy that Mr. Dinesh Thampi is here. In fact, recently, TCS started recruiting professionals in learning and development. I should not say in front of him because he is the head of TCS. In Bangalore, I was watching how they are taking professionals in L&D. Then I found that they went to the architectural schools in Trivandrum School of Architecture and recruited B.Arch students, pass out, A site, based on their portfolio of architecture. They were selected. Now the head of Bangalore L&D is an architect, not an MBA with HR or that type of skills. And worldwide, it is popular that in learning and development, we are talking a little differently from the training of information and knowledge. So the paradigm shift from training to learning happened in a different way. Again, I would like to say beautiful companies, benchmark companies, built to last companies, how they are having their learning systems. Now from the teacher-dominated, trainer-dominated system, it is moving towards self-organized learning systems, self-managed learning, self-directed learning systems, self-designed learning. So the learner has the freedom to choose what is the mode of learning, whether I should learn through WhatsApp or whether I should do as a different way, I can choose. Whether I should go for a lecture and listen, that's also my choice. The way of learning is more individual directed and personal directed, and the choice is open for how to learn also with the learner.
So that means the responsibility of learning is that of the learner, not the provider of the knowledge.
Yes, the responsibility for learning is with the learner. At the same time, institutions of L&D, we are providing opportunities for them to learn, not teach or train. So we are like facilitate learning. In TCS, we have systems like, I'm sorry, I'm talking we because I love TCS. So they have a system of practice groups, small projects. The nano car was being developed. It is actually, some people were given, very HR people, engineers and designers, artists, painters, and all these people were brought together. And it's a very diverse group of people who are designing the new product. I was in Japan, and so in the Honda plant, they were actually designing cars for Kerala. There's a small group of people working for Kerala cars. Okay.
Kerala cars.
Cars for Kerala roads. So when I went there, they showed me in Kottayam, where is your home? Oh, yeah, this is a gutter is there. And so they were actually having the learning of new generation cars for Kerala. And, it's all person-centered, the need-based learning. So what is the need of that learner? What is the need of the organization? So we are creating opportunities for people to learn themselves, and L&D is actually giving opportunities. Okay, let's have a practice group. Let's have a learning partnership, or individual learning, personal journaling, journaling as a way of learning, individual learning. So right from learning and individual learning, journaling or reflection, or learning partnership, or learning groups, or even a group of community of practitioners, community of learners coming together from a diverse background and learning and exploring together. It's a beautiful experience of learning.
Thank you, Dr. Jain. Very nicely, poetically, you had put it in front of the audience. Now, Dinesh, now the millennials are taking over from the baby boomers. The baby boomers are retiring, and the Gen Y, the millennials, are taking over. We have been hearing a lot about their behavioral traits and their learning behavioral patterns, etc. Now, I also have been yesterday very privileged to have a look at the way learning and development in your organization as a completely automated solution has been done, where you are saying that you can give anytime, anywhere, learning on any platform or any device. That's actually that you have said. And I am also told that you have won global awards for this initiative, and today close to about 400,000 people that you have, of which 87% of them are able to use this technology and going. At the same time, we are also, as IT fraternity, is undergoing the challenges of reskilling or retraining the IT forces that we have. Things have changed a lot. It's no longer coding, or it's no longer a BPO sort of an activity. There's a plenty of changes in terms of the content of the programming or content of the development that is happening. So with all this experience of TCS and the amount of efforts and initiatives that you have put into this, what's your thoughts on these initiatives that you have put will help the future in learning and development?
Yeah, thanks, sir. I think maybe around like 3 aspects is where like we have mainly focused on how the learning has to be transformed, as like Jain sir mentioned, like from what was happening earlier to the current or in the future. So we more or less like based on, one is infrastructure, the second is like that upskilling. It's basically more than training. The upskilling is a need, it's the need of the hour. And the third thing is the mechanism, how we impart that training. When I say infrastructure, it's basically the connected classrooms, so that like if you, because currently we have like more than 380,000 employees in TCS, it's not like viable to like fix a location, fly or move all these people into that location and make a training, whether it's like a day, 1 day, 2 days, whatever the duration. So the connected classrooms is definitely helping that. In fact, I had an experience. We have this setup called iClass. So like when I was giving that presentation, it's like 12 locations were connected, almost 220 people were listening to that. Yeah, and then when they like ask a question, it's again one-on-one, like as if like you and me are talking. They can press the button, the camera will focus on you, and like it's a great feeling. The second one, upskilling is a need, because with all this digital transformation, any verticals, irrespective of like whatever the business verticals you are in, as of now you don't have a choice. Some of them are like maybe fairly advanced, they have a clear plan, but others are also onboarded. Everybody is in the bus, whether like otherwise they feel like they miss out of this digital transformation. And with all of this technologies coming in, that is definitely needed. Upskilling is needed. Then the important point is how we will impart that training. That is where the whole digitization of the content, as you rightly pointed out, anytime, anywhere, learning with anyone and any content, all those things. and then how we will do that digitization, and like from the generation, I think even if like our generation or the earlier generation and especially the future generation, they really like in a gamification mode. So how you create that content and do that. But one of the key points which I felt is like, can we create a habit where they can nurture unlearning and learning faster? That is the need of the hour.
This unlearning in easy set, but how do we actually do this unlearning, Dinesh?
Yeah, I think like I know it's like I would say like you don't erase whatever you learn, but then you
Never
have to
start, not start.
Yeah,
That's it
like,
happening.
yeah, I'm like started with the mainframe development. From there, if you look, I did like tier 3. I worked in 4 databases. So the basics, if you have like that overall the concept, depending on the moving technologies, then I think it can easily pick up that. So you should. That's what you should nurture that habit, like how you can do that unlearning and the learning aspect.
Thanks, Dinesh. I'll come back to you. Now, Anil, I look at you a little differently because, as I have already told that, okay, it is a sort of a business acceleration process that actually you are more now in. At the same time, you are one of the first certified coaches in the country. Now, there is this element of coaching, right, which is a little different from what we call as a training process, etc. I would like you to tell the audience as to how does this differ, point number 1. Number 2, as an individual as well as an organization that you run in this business acceleration process, how your organization is able to help people, individuals in their learning process actually.
Okay. Morning, friends. When it comes to the business coaching, coaching is when you say that the future of learning and development, I would say that, okay, the future of the business usually is connected with the culture of the learning and development activities that any organization adopt. When it comes to the business coaching, actually, it starts with the business owner, because the building the learning culture in the business owner itself is something very important when it comes to learning and development in any organization. So the first question that, okay, how it is different from the normal corporate learning is that building that culture in the business owner itself is the most important challenge. And that's what I do in terms of the business coaching, because first you improve or imbibe the quality of learning in the business owner so that he will take the ownership of learning and development within the organization. What I've seen is that those who are coachable and trainable as business owners definitely encourage a learning culture in their organization, irrespective of the cost involved. Because most of the time you know that, okay, as a trainer, I never find a problem in getting clients, and at the same time also in convincing people to go for training. But if you give only cost of training as the only reason for the corporates as well as any HR manager to take a decision on yes or no to a training program, then there is a question mark, because that's where the actual decision fails, because cost of training is not the only thing that we need to look at, because as I feel that, okay, the cost of not training is something that we need to actually look at when it comes to the corporate learning. That's something which is very, very important.
I'm sure that's a trainer applauding.
Because many of the time, neither the business owners nor the trainers are really able to assess the cost of not training or the benefit of the training. That is one of the reasons why the training industry, sometimes we feel that it's a very struggling industry, because we are not able to convince somebody to go for an expensive training.
But I also see, actually, I totally agree with you, but the fact is that actually this industry is also full of people who just are there in for the bucks.
Yes, sir, but I didn't get you.
I'm saying, we have trainers and trainers and trainers.
Ah.
So how do I get the trainer out of the trainer out of the trainer?
See, sometimes I'll say that sometimes this industry is spoiled by the trainer himself, because you see a business owner wants a training program, and a person gives a proposal, and the HR manager goes with the proposal to the business owner, and the first discussion will be on the cost. And another thing is that it becomes an HR manager's agenda rather than the business agenda, because you're not able to connect the business reasons with a training program. And so because it is coming from the HR manager, the business owner's intention also will be how to actually not to do this by making some reasons. So the first discussion or negotiation will be on the cost. So the HR manager actually what he does is that he will look at the cost-effective trainers, and definitely the cost-effective trainers.
So the quality goes away.
Yeah, the quality goes away, which reinforces the belief of the business owner that trainings are failure.
Failures, yes.
So that is how it happens. So the belief on training and development actually goes away. And that's what happens in business. So which is something that we need to really change, because it's a culture. I have seen companies with very big turnover still not in the culture of learning and development because they...
Is it that the business is actually looking at people who are already trained and learned? They want to take people. See, if you really look at it, they have actually, it's a TCS Learning Centers and Cognizant Learning Centers and Infosys Learning Centers actually can excel in university today in terms of both the content as well as the way it is being done. But at the same time, on level 2, level 3, etc., those organizations can't afford to train these people because the cost of learning and cost of training also is very high. So today I believe a lot of business houses would rather prefer to have a trained workforce coming, so they may pinch somebody out of the field or out of the organization and get them in. And that's why we see a lot of attrition also happening. You know, you give 500 rupees more and you can get a guy who is trained by ABC and take them in. So this also is happening. So I don't think this the training amount alone is not the thing, but I think that there is an impatience with the industry to have the people. They don't want to train. They want the guy to be on from the day one onwards, isn't it?
Sir, one more thing is there, because earlier the need of the training was predictable. There was a time when we were able to predict the need of the training, but if you ask any of these gentlemen sitting on both sides, you plan to do a training program or you predict a training program for this month, which may become irrelevant after 2 months. So what happens even in the corporate context, especially in the IT industry and all, it is a continuously changing need. That's the reason why sometimes some of the companies, they set up their own training centers, because it's more of the purely business oriented and the client oriented and the technicality involved. So therefore, that is one thing. But when it comes to the soft skill training or the leadership training and all, we are not training the people for doing their current job. Actually, the purpose of behavioral as well as leadership training is for helping the people to grow in an organization,
right,
and thereby they're contributing to the growth of the organization, because you are making them for the future rather than just making them for the current activities. Technical and skill building activities are for the current activities, whereas the behavioral and leadership trainings are for
the leadership future activities.
Yeah,
I'll come back to you. I'll definitely like to speak to you about the business acceleration process also. Vinod, I just was telling about these millennials and Gen Y, etc., etc. Now, their attention span is limited. Their learning time that they can give is limited. They are people in a hurry. You know, the way they learn and pick up things, the methodologies that they adopt to do this is different. All this is there. And now that is giving way to methodologies like agile learning and micro learning and real-time learning and flexible learning, etc. Would you be able to give your thoughts on this, you know, the newer trends of agile learning, micro learning, etc., etc.?
Absolutely, yes, sir. So I'll just preface what I have to say by saying that probably 4 or 5 years back, when you asked a person in this learning development HR space whether you want to take a choice between being in HR or being in learning development, they would say HR for whatever reason, right? But this day, right, if you ask somebody today, they would definitely, and I'm speaking purely from the IT space, they would definitely want to be in learning and development, because that is where it's most creative, right? And when I say that is where it's more creative, that's where, you know, we think about the millennials.
Okay.
And in fact, even the word millennial is becoming slightly obsolete now. We're going to Gen Z now,
Yeah.
right, which is a totally different animal that we've not figured.
Would you tell us some traits about this Gen Z?
Gen Z, well, I'm too old to probably, you know,
You don't have
even
to be one, but
understand,
you can observe
correct,
them.
even understand what they mean, right? But one thing I can definitely tell you is in terms of attention span, right? the more XYZ you become, the less your attention span is, right, in terms of a lot of things. Unless, of course, it interests you so tremendously, right? And for something to interest a Gen Z so tremendously is pretty much hard to find. So classroom learning is out of the picture altogether. For an IT company like ours, TCS, we have, invested tremendously in learning and development, having our in-house facilities. So as you rightly said, we're actually called universities in every sense. Okay. But what do these folks do? We have, in Cognizant, we've got around 1,100, 1,200 people in the learning and development space. But
Itself,
are they
within itself.
within itself? But are they teachers? No, they're not teachers, right? Because we don't need teachers anymore. We need content developers and creative minds that can ensure that this content is delivered effectively to people, right? Anyway, apart from classroom teaching. Even video conferences these days don't work. Which is why in this age where it's all digital, we're talking about digital technology, we're talking about mobiles, right? Everyone has a smartphone with them, right? And that is the first thing that one of these millennials, can relate to very easily, right? They've probably forgotten how to, open a notebook. I'm sure that you'll see that the handwritings are terrible. It's worse than that of a doctor because they hardly ever write anything anymore on the notebooks.
Okay.
Right? So they all type and
And
you have,
even if they write, it is undecipherable.
Absolutely, that's
Not
what-
because they are doctor type writing, because their acronyms and the abbreviations used
the
by them.
abbreviations, yeah. So spelling, Oxford Dictionary and all goes for a toss,
Yeah.
right? So that is a kind of, it might sound frivolous, but that's a kind of, learning methodologies that sometimes we use, right? We've got WhatsApp groups that give you micro learning, paragraphs. It'll be one paragraph a day or one every 4 hours or something of that sort, right? But it is content heavy, right? And it relates to something
No,
that
but
we're currently
does
doing.
that mean, that's a question. Now, normally what happens is when the content is heavy, it takes time to absorb, it takes time to deliver. Now, you're saying that it is content heavy, but it is put it in the form of micro learning.
Yeah.
4 minutes, 5 minutes, what's a video, this, that, etc. Is it getting absorbed? That's a question.
It is, because the level of grasping, right, of that content is high among the millennials.
So we don't need to
Look
worry,
at
the
it.
future is bright.
The future is very bright, right? It's only that we need to channel it, in a particular way.
Okay.
Right? And from a technical aspect, we live in a world wherein we're trying to, digitize a lot of the way that we work, right? Clients want everything yesterday. They're not willing to wait today, tomorrow, right? So for your technical learning, it's very, very difficult for you to, as Anil sir rightly said, to, go to an external agency, right? Pick out the person with the best capabilities and at the right cost, bring him into the organization, deliver sessions. We don't have that time at all.
As a HR person, do you find it easy to pick up a guy?
A guy in-
of the specification given to you. Let's say a division says that I want ABC of this specification, or this is my requirements. Okay, are you able to pick up the guy instantly from the market?
It depends on the technology.
Okay.
Some technologies, yes, some technologies very difficult. So we got certain niche technologies which are pretty new in the market. Fortunately, unfortunately for organizations as large as ours, it's easy to pick them up,
Okay.
right? Not because of the fact that they're trained, but because of the opportunities that we can offer them,
Okay.
right? But then there are certain technologies that's very difficult to find, that we'll have to invest heavily in. We'll have to give a certain gestation period before we even expect them to be productive in anything that they're required to be doing.
Tell me, yesterday we were discussing this, the panel yesterday was saying that they are finding it very difficult to recruit people because employability is drastically falling down, and the quality of engineering institutions, management institutions, etc. also are putting a lot of questions on that. So are you able to get from this workforce that evolving, coming out of the schools and colleges, are you able to pick them up, or are you able to get the right type of material with the right attitude?
From a fresher perspective, no. Right? Pretty sadly, the expectations from colleges or students that pass out of T schools, right, is that the day they complete their college, right, training development ends for them.
Okay.
Right? The next day onwards, it's about money,
Yeah.
right? And how much you can spend. What is the new kind of gadgets, jeans, shirts, t-shirts and stuff that you can buy, which all malls you can go to and stuff like that. But at the same time, the IT industry is so dynamic, right? So as he said, what's technology tomorrow is obsolete technology. I mean, what's technology today is obsolete technology tomorrow, right? And if you don't bridge that mindset gap very quickly, we're in for a very rough ride.
Right, I'll come back to Vinod. Dr. Jain, I would like you to speak on something about the newer methods of doing it. Like, that's why precisely I said this TCI and non-violent communication, because we were very enamored when you started all this in the form of that micro-learning facilities that you have put up, 5 people, 10 people sitting together, we turn around thing, and then you said this is TCI and this. See, these sort of learnings, okay, done in a micro-learning form, at the same time on newer themes such as TCI, such as non-violent communication, etc. How effective are they in the learning and development process for organization?
Earlier we were having lecture method and PowerPoint presentations and things like that. Now what we do is that we design the learning methods. For example, right now these panelists are talking and many of you are just sitting or watching, maybe talking to your friend or maybe using your WhatsApp messages, talking to your friends or reading something else or thinking about something else. Now, interval time, tea break, I'm sure that you will be there, coffee and bustling, talking so many things with emotions and feelings like that. So, based on that, we have designed, trainer community, we have designed something called World Cafe. So, World Cafe is a learning method which makes learning easy in a situation like the...
But do you really get coffee?
Yeah, the question, yeah, normally we...
Or is it a virtual coffee that we get?
Yeah, normally coffee is served. In Istanbul, we were having a similar event. So it is a Turkish coffee.
Turkish coffee.
Turkish coffee. It may be in Kochi, if you are organizing, we normally do it Indian Coffee House.
Okay, I see.
It's like that. Okay. So we have an Indian Coffee House, is our learning sphere. So we, teachers training, we bring them to Lulu Mall, Yesterday also I had a session with the Lulu Mall. So we don't have a classroom, but it's air conditioned and you have a cafe in the food court and everything is there and we have sessions in the Lulu Mall. Why not? Maybe we'll be having a session on the metro rail when it comes. So we are designing, so I was in metro rails in different countries recently to study how I can make use of the metro rail compartment as learning space.
Wow.
So we are also designing new things. World Cafe is one. There is another space is called Open Space Technology, which some of you may be aware. OST it's called. So it's designed by a European facilitator on OST. That again is giving opportunity for learners to choose which classroom, which learning space they should go. For example, in IT companies, we have different areas of functions, different domains. So depending on the interest of that person, they may not be in that vertical, but he may be in the other vertical, but still able to go and experience the learning in that learning space. So it's like a festival, it's a marketplace where I can decide which learning space I should be in. We have a WhatsApp forum, we have different, normally such conferences are in Zoom platform. Zoom is beautiful. If you are not aware of the Zoom, it's like Skype. Trainers normally use the Zoom as a platform where, learning where you are sitting, whether it's in Kochi or in Copenhagen or whether in New York or Brazil, doesn't matter. You can be in the same classroom. So we normally do that workshops and learning spaces. I have every week one
Zoom workshop.
Zoom workshop.
Okay.
And is giving opportunity for learners to choose which classroom, which learning space they should go. For example, in IT companies, we have different areas of functions, different domains. So depending on the interest of that person, they may not be in that vertical, but he may be in the other vertical, but still able to go and experience the learning in that learning space. So it's like a festival, it's a marketplace where I can decide which learning space I should be in. We have a WhatsApp forum, we have different, normally such conferences are in Zoom platform. Zoom is beautiful. If you are not aware of the Zoom, it's like Skype. Trainers normally use the Zoom as a platform where, learning where you are sitting, whether it's in Kochi or in Copenhagen or whether in New York or Brazil, doesn't matter. You can be in the same classroom. So we normally do that workshops and learning spaces. I have every week one
Zoom workshop.
Zoom workshop
Okay.
to different participants across the world. So like that, we organize learning and development using the technology, but particularly using just a smartphone is good enough for learning and also facilitating learning of others. And also I can just take a clipping from here and immediately upload it to someone else across the world.
So it's available to others as well.
Yeah, so learning is a collaborative learning process. It's not a, it's individual. Yeah, we are just asking, okay, now let's have a minute silence. So that same effect, wherever you're sitting, you get it. So we are creating a space for learning. So earlier we have a physical space, as some of us were talking about. Right now, there is no physical space. Space is wherever you are, at your convenience, at your time. And normally we have posting in the WhatsApp with videos, so that you don't need to be disturbed by a telephone call. I can give a voice call and send it to you, so that you can listen to my voice. At the same time, I can take the call at my interval time or break time. Similarly is the videos also.
But generation now is into multitasking, no? But it is understood that the multitasking, if you're doing on that, all the 4 or 5 tasks that one is doing simultaneously, how do they catch the content, Dr. Jain?
Well, as a new business, when we are starting a new business, what we do is first the opportunity analysis. Whether there is an opportunity available outside. We just find out the need of the people. What service, how can I improve the lives of someone else by, addressing the need first. Second one is that appropriateness, whether I am appropriate for doing that business or activity. That's the second thing I'm looking upon. So based on understanding my need and other person's need, it's not a need for money, it's the universal needs we are talking about.
Okay,
Thank you.
meeting the needs. Dinesh, actually, coming to you, you have now a platform, you call it TCS Ion as a platform, onto which you have actually put all these things. To the extent now, it is not only you have internal consumers, most of which can also be big time e-learning solution that you can sell outside. Will you be able to tell us about the evolution of this platform?
Yeah, it's basically came up with overall to handle the SME market, the small and medium business market, where it's like if you take like one transaction as an education, one of that aspect is like you have to you join a school, all these things happens, then the exams are there, the teaching is there, the exam is there, and then finally when you are getting into a job opportunity, again, there is still evaluation. So that one transaction is what we picked up and thought of same as earlier it was mentioned from a digitization standpoint, how we will make that learning much more interesting, especially to the younger generation. And as Binod mentioned, a short contents, not you have to read pages or watch videos for hours. So that is where the whole thing came up, and it can be as Sir earlier mentioned, I can choose what I want. And then it transfers also. If I am in the office, I read in my desktop or laptop. When I move into traveling, I can read the next chapter in the mobile or whatever gadget you have. So that was one aspect. Second is the assessment. How the assessments are done and how the evaluations can be taken care of. And it happens both from the education standpoint and also from the job opportunity standpoint. So this was the thought process in which we internalized the aspect. So many of the things when we start, we do internally. When it comes to a sort of a maturity, it can be rolled out as an offering. That is where we go into that. So this is the process in which we came up, and now I think more or less across India, many of the CBSE board exams we conduct using ION. The railway board exam, in fact, that is the largest, I think more close to a huge number of people wrote that exam. And obviously it needs an infrastructure. It's not like we can call everybody each time, especially a railway board exam happens. It's not possible to set an auditorium, do all these tests. So
Can you predict a scenario where I can do a railway board exam on my smartphone?
Yeah, it is possible. Like now anyway they assemble. Now what we do in current scenario is we have our academic relationships. Through that we have institutions like colleges or universities where the lab is set up. So the students are assembled there, they come do the online test and go. But yeah, very much it may come to that level where overall the security aspects and all those things coming into play, which if you really ask me, compared to many years back, the security aspects are much more tighter. It's much more better compared to the earlier days. Like when sir was mentioning about the open space, this open source was one of the earliest where many people debated. But currently if you look, even financial institutions are comfortable moving into that platform.
Yeah,
The discipline.
Is it for the fun they come in, or is it for the learning that they come?
No, actually we say that we believe in fun in the fundamentals,
Okay.
but that is also connected with business. Even if you do a social, which is a family social, there is a reason connected to business for that.
Okay.
Because we call it as fun in the fundamental. Fun is required for any learning or any growth. Fun is always required. But at the same time, you need to be a very serious business owner, because why you have joined an organization like BNI is not for fun. If that is the case, then there are
He
so
would have
many
done.
other.
Because the cost of entry also is there.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a cost of entry.
is there, plus the time that they spend. So it's an investment which they should always look at. I encourage people to take goals
Okay.
and also very clear idea about what is the return that they expect from the platform. The similar way, in corporate also, we should have that culture of measuring that why the training. See, some business owners negotiate with me on sometimes. It usually doesn't happen, but when it comes to the HR consulting activity, people say that, okay, Anil, the training programs are very, very expensive and all. So only simple question I ask them. Sometimes there are so many reasons. One is the cost. Second is that if I train a person, he get everything from my side and he
Go away.
go to a competitor and join the competitor.
He'll go to
I'll do-
Cognizant.
yeah. So that's what it is. So I used to ask him, so what is the alternative? Don't train them. Okay. The alternative is don't train them and keep the untrained average people in your company for years,
Yeah.
and then gradually you die.
Yeah. I keep the monkeys.
So this is alternative if you don't get into training. So the culture of building the culture of training is actually an integral part of the business, because when we talk about innovation, innovation culture, what is it? It's again learning. It's again learning and development. You continue to be innovative in business means what?
You're progressing.
Yeah, you have to progress. For change and improvement, training and development is a must actually.
Well said, Anil. Thank you. Now, Binod, that's my sort of question ending with you, and then we will take questions from outside. Fundamentally, we do this learning and development activity. One, individual development, corporate development, retention, right? Essentially retention. Now, is the learning and development initiative that your organization and organizations such as you taken up and rolled out in your organization, how much has it helped you to retain the people and grow them?
Well, historically, training development was meant purely for retention, right, and as a means of reward. Okay, so if I do well in my current responsibilities or designation or whatever it is, I'm rewarded with a, fancy, training, right, or a program. I'm sent somewhere, right, where we join along with a lot of other people. We do a certification. That certification is framed and put on my desk. That was how it was earlier done. It was purely rewards.
Rewards,
Right.
okay, right.
And retention.
Right.
Right now, in the context of the IT industry that I cater to, it's a necessity. It's purely a need. If I say that I train to retain a person, I'm probably missing the bus.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm training so that I'm current. Right, so I'm training so that I'm competitive in the industry that I'm working for. I'm training so that I'm probably ahead of my fellow competitors, which is probably TCS, Infosys, Wipro, and the likes, and likewise with them as well. Okay, so training is not now seen as a retention mechanism at all.
At all.
right? Which is why I
But
said
originally started as one.
it started as one.
Okay.
It started as one, which is
Okay.
why we didn't. Which is why probably we didn't invest in training so much, because we thought, I don't need to retain everyone. I just need to retain the best talent.
Okay.
Okay, and therefore I'll have a training department which will cater to, which will evaluate a set of people, right, and say that, hey, you come in the top 3, and therefore I reward you with, you know, with additional knowledge. But now all 10, right, have the same need to be trained. If as an industry, as a business, I need to be competitive and current in what I'm doing, right, and that's because of the dynamism of the industry, I would say.
To what extent your organization has been able to make it current through this learning and development program, specifically to your organization, or you can also speak for the industry?
Yeah, so specific to my organization, we have developed programs, or we have moved from your designation demanded trainings to more of a role-based training, right? So there's a very subtle difference between the two. I might be a manager, right, and therefore in the past I might have certain trainings that are important to make me successful as a manager.
Okay.
Right, that's based on my designation. But now I look more into the role I'm playing, and not whether I'm a manager and I have 3 or 5 people
Under me.
under me or not. I'm looked at on the basis of the role that I'm required to perform, on the role that I'm currently performing, right, and how training affects or improves that current role, right. So I might be a person with 2.5 years of experience, right, but the role that I'm doing and my capabilities in that role in a certain level, I might need to be upskilled, right, based on that role. Okay, and that is how training is more focused on, right. So therefore the investment subtly shifts from where you are in the hierarchy to what you're doing in the current role that you're doing. So that's the difference that from a cognizant perspective we make.
Thank you. That is very well understood. Questions from the audience? Please ask the question.
People, and that's where I see companies like yours struggling a lot.
Yeah, so to answer your question in 2 parts. One is we invest heavily in training and development, as I said earlier, right? So when we take in T-School graduates and as freshers into our organization, there is absolutely no expectation on them being productive from day one. Okay, so for us, productivity starts from 6 months to 1 year, within which, from a level of confidence that the organization has in its learning development capabilities, we're pretty sure that we can bridge this gap to a great extent. Of course, the IT industry is basically sweatshops where we recruit in mass, right? So we don't have a foolproof mechanism to say that everyone that I recruit, right, is going to succeed or survive in the industry. There are 2 parts to it. One is your part as an organization, the second is their part as individuals to succeed in the organization as well, right? And there's a small sub part to it, how much the college invests in bridging this academy industry gap as well. So it's not always the onus of the organization to do that, it's also partly the campus that we visit these to recruit these students from. And it's not, just to finish up, it's not about CGPAs, by the way, right? If that were the case, we would probably recruit 10 people from every college that we came into. It's about communication and analytical abilities, and that's how we take these folks, and then the rest is all about learnability.
Yes,
That
next
answers your
question, please.
Acceptable. We have spent a lot of money for their
Good,
new
yeah,
product.
right.
That's all I can say at this moment.
Ma'am, you have a mic here, right? Okay.
Yes. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for all your inputs. My name is Jessica, and I'm a trainer. What I want to point out is that all of you have been talking about people who are already in employment. A recent report from the Economic Times has featured an article by the Capgemini India chief saying that 65% of IT employees are not trainable.
Yeah, Jessica, I think this is a question belonging to another panel. Do you have another question?
No, this is what I wanted to
Okay,
ask.
fine. So the question is, unemployability or employability. Dinesh, will you take the call? Yes.
Yeah, I think from a trainability standpoint, I don't think so, because like we do a lot of training. In fact, like our earlier CEO, who is currently chairman, put up a ambitious goal to train 1 lakh people on digital from E0 to E5. It was like a what do you call, 2 or 3 years back we set up the goal, and out of like around 380,000 people, we trained 1,39,000 something, and they are in somewhere between the E0 to E4 level. So people are not trainable. I think it's a debatable aspect of it, because currently that is the need of the hour. Even seniors, if I may say, everybody, because that overall the earlier hierarchical organization is getting collapsed. And I think earlier SR sir asked a question about the millennials, that basically wanted to ensure like they don't want to report into so much of a hierarchy. They want the work get done and leave the place. So in that case, even seniors, in fact like our own experience, they are very much wanting to do training even from a technical standpoint. Somebody who had done like 10, 15 years, grew up the ladder in the system, being a project manager, is willing to take a technology training, because that is really needed. There are a couple of larger customer engagements where 100% of right from the overall head till whomever joined today had undergone training in certain areas. It may be starting with like a CD or whatever it is, but then there are, like now it is changing. People know to be in the environment, they have to undergo training, some or the other, with the newer technologies.
We'll take one last question.
Hello.
Yeah, 1 second.
Hello.
Can you give the mic to this officer here?
Yes.
I will come to you, please. Can you give the mic to this officer here, please? Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Kerek Kostapande from the Indian Naval Academy. My question for Mr. Dinesh. Sir, having established that training is a key focus area, and also it involves a lot of finances. So how do you establish the qualitative efficacy of a person who's undergone training after the training period?
Yeah, in fact, once that training is over, it's not necessarily always that 100% of that batch who had gone through that training will get into whatever that training had happened, especially from a technological standpoint. But otherwise, like we do training, as I earlier mentioned, in the initial learning, then the continuous education is there, and also the leadership programs. Leadership programs will be very focused. That is basically for at a senior level, which they go into like more of the soft skills, team collaboration, interaction, communication, a lot of things. The continuous education program is where like mainly the question you ask come into play. So there, actually like what earlier Anil sir was mentioning, in fact like in IT, it happens really from the business. Talent development, my talent development head is sitting here. She will not even move a finger without business putting up their request. And it has to be clear, not even putting up the request. If it's a technological education to be given, they even have to provide people with experience to do that training. It's not like, definitely with the moving or the newer technology, we won't get people from outside to train. So somebody from another engagement or a project will be allocated, and it's the responsibility of that business unit to identify that person, he or she, to do that training. Then obviously that is very focused. That means it's my need as a business unit, maybe in BFS, this is what is needed. Maybe blockchain is one thing, new technology coming into play. I want that training, then I know there are like the pipeline is there, the customers there. Still it may happen, 100% may not work in that because some other need may come. But we will ensure that, but we will keep that folks trained so that they can be deployable with maybe.
You have 30 seconds for a last say in the matter.
See, when it comes to the training, I think training and learning, there is the difference between training and learning is basically putting the training, actually put the trainer in the center, and everything revolves around the trainer. Whereas the learning is actually putting the learner in the center. I think many of you may have heard about the transactional design aspect of training, because where the learner is put in the center and all the modules or the contents are developed in such a way that the learners are able to understand and grasp the each and every reasons of the points which is explained. The why part of the knowledge is clear to the learner, and if that is clear, then it is very easy to implement.
Thank you.
It's not about what and how. It's even the learner should know why we are learning this thing, and if that purpose is very clear, implementation is very clear, And if that is very clear, then the result is clear. The business owners will be able to do more business trainings in their organizations and everybody will flourish, I think.
Parting words, Dinesh.
Yeah, I think from an overall training perspective, it's becoming more and more critical in this particular age, and whether from a technology standpoint, I think many of us talked about technology, but also equally important is the changing business model. So that is also has to be key, which was completely two different domains some years back, which is very much embedded as of now. So it goes very much hand in hand. We can see many of the examples. So I think learning and the training has to be a very critical part, and I would say it's the responsibility of each one of the individuals to ensure that we keep abreast on what is happening, both from the business perspective and also from a technology
Individual perspective.
standpoint.
Thank you. Dr. Jain.
In continuation with Mr. Dinesh said, I think that learning is an exciting, enjoyable experience, and there are so many opportunities for learning. If you are an MBA student, you don't need to be, to satisfy the needs of the regulations of the college, you can sit in the class to 10 to 5. At the same time, there are 16 hours, 2 shifts open for you to learn from the Lulu Mall. You can just go to different places. And there is exciting places, world-class institutions in Kochi where you can learn and develop. So opportunities are so much for learning, and you need to be your own master, and opportunities are so many, and people are watching. If you are having a Facebook page, there are people who are seeing which are the likes you are having, which are the photos and pictures you have shared. These are all monitored. So your interest and your passion, all these things, if I am able to get a job which is of my passion, then I don't need to work. And I think that there are so many enormous opportunities for learning and growing, and also having an exciting life.
Thank you, Dr. Jain. We have already exceeded the time. Dr. Susan had said, at 10:10 we started boiling the soup. The soup is now already boiled and it is done. Okay. My job.